Can't I come back to your conversation with the Americans? The Americans gave you their version of their conversations with the French.
Yes.
Did you then go and ask the French for their side of the story?
No, I couldn't do that. I plainly couldn't have done that.
It is a very important issue. Why couldn't you?
I couldn't have done that, because there we were, plainly, by this stage, in a major diplomatic standoff, if you like, between the United States and France. I couldn't. You couldn't have had. And you couldn't have had the British Attorney General being seen to go the French to ask them, what do you think? The message that would have given Saddam Hussein about the degree of our commitment would have been huge.
Could you not have had a private discussion with the French?
I'm not sure if that's possible.
Or pursue the matter through diplomatic channels?
I think that comes to the same thing.
We have confidential communications with the French through diplomatic channels.
I think this was a hugely sensitive political area. The United States and the United Kingdom were acting very closely together. We were not acting very closely with France. They had, or they came to have, a clear view as to what they wanted to happen. I don't know whether they did throughout. They came to have a clear view in relation to it. I don't think, if I had said to somebody, do you mind if I now go and talk to the French about this, that anybody would have said that was acceptable.
So we have a situation in which, as you were formulating your legal advice to the Prime Minister on this crucially important question, you have got the accounts from Sir Jeremy Greenstock and from the Americans of exchanges held in private without written contemporaneous records with the French, and we also have on the public record what the French and other governments have said about Resolution 1441, which does not point in exactly the same direction.
I have also heard what Jack Straw has said. Jack Straw sent me a detailed letter. I think this may be one of the things which has not been declassified, but it is important that I mention that I had a detailed letter from him, which commented again on the textual arguments which I had raised and also provided a very clear view about what the negotiating issue had been and how it had been resolved. So there were those three things that I had had. You are absolutely right, Sir Roderick, that I did not have a signed statement, and of course that's one of the things which then gave rise to, to difficulties, and I made the point, I think on the 7th of March, we were dependent ultimately on their view. But that doesn't detract from the critical point that you have to interpret a resolution in the context, and the context was, and this I was persuaded on, and I have seen enough to know that this was right. Was there going to be a second decision required or not? Then, with that in mind, you then go back to the resolution and you look at the words that have been used, and, ultimately, the fact that a deliberate choice had been taken to use the words "considered the situation" and not "decide," to me was the most powerful factor at the end of the day.
If you had gone to a court of law, had such a court existed, and put to them what you had heard from the Americans, from Jack Straw, from Sir Jeremy Greenstock, about the French position, but they had also had to consider what the French had said on the record in the Security Council, what? To which side of this would they have given greater weight?
Well, can I answer this way, and I know I'm moving forward, but at the point that I took the view, and I'll explain why, that I had actually to come down on one side of the argument or other, I used a test which I quite frequently use when I'm having to advise on difficult matters, which is to say, which side of the argument would you prefer to be on? And I took the view I would prefer to be on the side of the argument that said a second resolution wasn't necessary.